good afternoon, everyone. My name is Michael Bolton. I'm a security solutions engineer here at VMRay. So for many of you that have dealt with enterprise type software, a person such as myself, technical background, I get involved in the pre-sale stages, doing demonstrations, and of course you may meet me at events, but then if you go forward with such a product as VMRay, I work with you to ensure it's set up, it's integrated, and you're going to get the best possible time from it. Andre, over to you.
Hello everyone, my name is Andrei Waitenko, and I am the product manager at VMRay. Basically, what I'm doing is making your experience with the product better, and that's what I guess we will be speaking about today with Michael. The major goal for this webinar is to give you kind of an insight of what has changed during the last year, what new great features we have got on board, and as well to speak a bit about the 4.7, which was released just last Saturday. All right, then I guess we can start the normal presentation, because before we go into demo, always there should be some slides where we speak a bit about the stuff, and the major focus, the major stress we wanted to put on today's webinar is the three topics, basically. The first one, and probably the most important, is you are obviously the customers of the VMRay, as you're here, and you use VMRay and you love VMRay. We don't need to tell you nothing about Analyzer. However, probably we want to share how others are using the product, and what extensions from just manual submissions they can get in terms of adopting VMRay in their company. And the biggest topics, the biggest use cases that comes to my mind, at least, are the fully automated processing of the advanced phishing, as well as triage alerts in the fully automated manner. Then we will speak a bit about the malware config extraction, which is kind of a big security related thing that happened in 4.5 this year, and perhaps there is something else, but we are not going to spoil it, right, Michael?
Keeping some surprises up your sleeves.
Of course. All right, so let's speak about the fighting malicious URL and phishing. And as the slide actually says, we find out that many of our customers last year started using VMRay to detonate not just the samples, to detonate not just the malware which was found within this or that incident or came from EDR or any other security tool. So it's not just the detonation of the malware, but also many of them started using us to partially or fully automate the process of user-reported phishing processing. Like every company has this abuse mailbox, the reported button, which allows users to submit the emails which they think are suspicious. Then and then those emails go to security operating center, where they need to be analyzed. The artifacts should be extracted either manually or with the help of any source system. Then those artifacts are usually enriched. And basically the question is like, okay, you get the intel on those samples, but what exactly intel do you get on them? Because in the past, the most common way, I'm not sure if we need to stand on this slide. Maybe we can go one step forward. Yeah, it's the machine learning. Okay. So the typical story is this. When it comes to the malware detonation, the customers are usually very cautious, and they submit first they try to submit the hash. In case the hash submission doesn't work in the normal way, they tend to submit the sample itself, at least to VMRay, since we are not sharing any intel with nobody, and the data of the customer stays fully private. However, the customers feel much more relaxed when it comes to submitting the URLs, because URLs is something that you have just received from the internet. They doesn't contain any private data, and you can get like real intel on those URLs. You can detonate them, and within VMRay Analyzer we got very sophisticated process of URL detonations, which not just includes opening the web page, but also we have many different technologies that allow us to analyze the whole structure of the page, the full DOM structure, to download all the files which are available on this page and submit them for analysis as well. Which allows us to analyze what is the domain age, what is the structure of the page, what are the logos, like what are the logos that are presented on this page, and so on and so forth. On top of that, we also have a very sophisticated machine learning algorithms which sit on this data. Like you have now on the slide, we fully analyze the URL structure. We analyze the raw output of the web analysis. That's probably the most important thing, the most usable part of the machine learning phishing detection algorithm. We do the analysis of the host, as well as, like I already said, we go with the full analysis of the content of the web page and all the samples or all the files that can be downloaded during this analysis. So basically all this output is sent then to a special trained model, which is trained in-house, and it's trained by VMRay, so you don't need to do any fine-tuning. And this model actually gives you the result, whether the URL is a phishing URL or a non-phishing URL. Basically, what you get at the end of the day is by submitting sample, you get the full analysis of the URL, starting from just the pure detonation, and then getting all the intel on what's around this web page, including all the attachment structure, logos, and so on. But this is not just it. You also get the sophisticated machine learning algorithms that you don't need to train. It's trained fully in-house. And you just need to enjoy the fact that you are now much more protected than it was before. We don't just detonate URLs that are directly submitted to the VMRay Analyzer. You can also forward to VMRay Analyzer. You still can forward to VMRay Analyzer all the documents, and URLs will be extracted from there. URLs also will be picked up from the email, so you don't need to bother to parse all those emails and extract all the artifacts. Just submit the whole email there, and you will get the full analysis results. For those companies who do not have this very sophisticated stack of parsing these reported emails and extracting the data from them, we do have the full automation of the user-reported phishing case by having the special IR Mailbox technology. We basically employ this submitted button there, and I guess this is time for Michael to show it.
Thank you very much. So, as a solutions architect, sales engineer type job, of course, I work to sort of get people set up and get the system integrated and make the most of it. And one of the things I noticed very quickly, IR Mailbox. So, for anyone with an existing VMRay subscription, I think this is most people on this call, into the settings, analysis, and there's a button for IR Mailbox. Andre's going to show you something later that's going to make that even easier. But for the time being, into that button, and you can create IR mailboxes. Now, if you were to use these normally, you can forward things from it. You can just use it as a very useful intake. So forward any sort of curious files or anything like that. We also have an Outlook plugin, very, very useful. But as I'm going to show you, you could also configure sort of systems to actually, use compliance, use existing controls to forward certain attachments into VMRay automatically. So instead of them hitting your user's mailbox and asking them to submit it, perhaps you're just going to send it straight in. Now, first of all, if we're going to go and configure that IR mailbox, well, I'm not going to take you through everything. A couple of things you've got to configure. First of all, disable submit a confirmation. Now, if you're using this IR mailbox internally and you've given your staff maybe the Outlook plugin, you might want to configure one IR mailbox to receive all of those messages. Turn on submit a confirmation. When your staff submit a suspicious message, they're going to get a confirmation saying thank you for that. However, of course, you don't want that working if you're going to be forwarding email. You don't want the attacker or the person to get the idea, what you're using to protect the place. So disable submit a confirmation. Discard the envelope unticked. The envelope is whatever is basically carrying the attachment, the EML message that we're going to look at. And of course, that content may be useful. It may be that it contains a password. We do have a variety of different ways for guessing those passwords, but it may be that you want to detonate a live interaction with it. And then turning down recursive sampling. Does a legitimate email do multiple redirections? Our recursive sampling go up to 50 levels. So you can do that redirect and redirect and redirect and redirect and so on and so forth. But at what level would you consider that to be suspicious? Personally, after 2 or 3, that's enough. Whatever's at the end of this, it's either, it's a phishing attempt or it's at least something very annoying that's trying to, waste our time. So have a think about those settings. I just did this as a little test in Google Workspace. So Google Workspace, in there via apps, Google Workspace and then Gmail, and you can use the compliance settings to set this up. We can use the attachment compliance to specify attachment types that will basically forward that message straight onto VMRay without it ending up at the user's inbox. We create that new compliance settings, we add a setting. Here, I've given it the name VMRay, of course. Maybe you want to have multiple ones. Email messages to affect inbound. Now, of course, we should all be good citizens of the internet, and potentially you would turn this on also for outbound. You certainly don't want, your messages leaving. If someone maybe did get something passed, if maybe they plugged in a thumb drive and your EDR solution missed it, could of course start sending messages on the piece of malware to try and replicate itself. So outbound may also be of interest. We then configure an attachment, a setting depending on the attachment. So you can see here Google Workspace does a lot of this already for you. Office documents are encrypted and not encrypted. Now, encrypted Office documents, as I said, it's unlikely, if they've sent it through with a decent password, that our system is going to be able to crack that. But remember, we're keeping the email messages hidden. And more samples that I'm seeing will have an encrypted attachment, but maybe they'll have an image in the email with the password hidden in it. So even it might be sort of done to trip up OCR systems, but you can usually get the gist of what they're asking you to input. I've also put their compressed files and archives, and down the bottom, I've put 2 custom file types, but executable, of course, is of no interest whatsoever. Executables are automatically rejected by Google Workspace. And as I was saying to Andre, as we were practicing this one, I love you. Not in any other way than professional admiration, but of course the old VB script. We were both laughing about how once upon a time, people just didn't bother hiding anything, obfuscating anything, just attacked plain old VB script, and the only obfuscation was calling it I love you, and it worked. So what a way the world has come on since those days. But
it was long ago.
It was long ago, yeah.
That was long ago.
We looked it up, it was 20 odd years. We both felt very long. So let's forget that, how long ago it was. So once the expression is in place, then we just change the envelope recipient. So now everything with one of those chosen attachments is going to be coming to our IR mailbox. You can see it there. This one was spun up quickly. You see it gets that random string. You can create quite a few of these. So you could have multiple depending on who's going to be receiving them. And then, of course, the settings are done at the IR mailbox side. So what you want to do with these things, how you want to scan them, maybe you want to go into dynamic analysis for your CEO's attachments, but your public mailboxes, your contact us address, you just want to do reputational lookups and drop anything you're not sure of. Anything that comes into the domain, as you can see here, will then be forwarded straight into the system. So this was an email I sent from, I think this was my personal Gmail account to a Google Workspace domain. As you can see, invoice attached. I did my very best to trick this person into opening it. There was absolutely no point. There was nothing received by the end user. One Michael sent it to another Michael, but of course, the compliance settings meant this was forwarded straight to VMRay. And as you can see, recursive submissions work. So while the email itself didn't contain anything of issue, its attachment did. The moment we see that recursive sample causing trouble, of course, we mark the whole email as malicious. So very easy to set up. As you can see, very quick and extremely powerful. I personally don't think we get enough people making full usage of that IR mailbox. So as I said, there's nothing, there's no controls, there's no additional costs. I would encourage all of you, go into your VMRay subscription, go into your account, set up, manage an IR mailbox, and just create one. It's a single button, maybe list your domain as the only one that's whitelisted, and just see what happens sending stuff in. Always recommend using the ICAR file, EICAR. I'll post a link to it in the chat. Always good for testing. See how you can get that ICAR file in and see how you can get it to your mailbox. Just a couple more things before I pass back to Andre. Again, something that rarely is utilized to its full extent. This fantastic German engineering, we have underlying our entire product, this extensive REST API. In my experience, in my 20-year career, I have come across so many different products, and so few of them provide an API that does absolutely everything that our product does. Subsequently, as you can see here, we can do one query, we get our account ID, another one, we get the IR mailbox ID, and from the final one, off we go, we're going to be getting all those results. So you see here, we've got that large API that no one, really, we've got to make more of it. It's a fantastic feature. But not only are you going to be receiving those emails automatically, they're going to be scanned and analyzed automatically. And then all you've got to do is go into the API, pull off a list of what's legitimate and what's safe, forward them onto your users. So a little demonstration of our REST API. Andre, do you want to talk a bit about integrations?
Yeah, of course. Of course. So, like Michael already said, we are pretty great. I just can only second Michael. That's probably the most API ready product I saw in my life. And
yeah, it is, isn't it? It really is. Actually, shall I show my other? Shall I show my other? I'm going to stop sharing the slides for one moment. I'm going to show you
absolutely, absolutely. So, please do. Please do.
So in my sort of days as solution architect, people often come and we want to see how we could do such things. Another example of a very simple automation, and this is something I just use for demonstration purposes. It shouldn't be used in production, but this is a PowerShell script using our REST API. 2 folders. One, a folder where you put files that you want scanned, and then 2, a folder where you want everything dumped out afterwards. So this script, very simply and very poorly, I'm sure many of you are much smarter than me and can come up with many better ways to implement this, scans through that folder, extracts the sample name, and then uses our REST API to push each file up to the cloud. Wait 60 seconds, and then it goes back through a list of sample IDs, and depending on if they're malicious, suspicious, or harmless, they move them into their relevant folders. This wouldn't require the file names to change. So if you had an EDR solution, network firewall, an intrusion detection, any sort of system that can write suspicious files to a directory, a simple PowerShell script, and with all my comments, this is 70 lines, you can automate that straight through VMRay. And of course, remember how we're doing this analysis at VMRay. You can be very confident of the results. So all of a sudden, if your system can write new files, can save files, can copy files to a location, we've got our existing Python library. There are numerous examples of Python. It's lovely. But personally, I wanted a challenge, so I went and did this with PowerShell. And as you can see, it's as easy. So the REST API, I just want more people to use it, Andre. It's heartbreaking that it's not being utilized as much as it should. But anyway, let's jump back to PowerPoint because I know everyone loves PowerPoint, and I wouldn't want anyone to miss out. Let's jump back in. So let us move forward.
Of course.
Right.
I guess so. Let's first wrap up the first thing, because I want to mention it once again, that what we see during the last year is that more and more customers use us for user-reported phishing in various flavors, starting from just enriching and submitting files, attachments, and URLs, which is more important because the credential harvesting and stuff like that, those links appear every day. Not every company is able of keeping up and getting all those new links in their threat intel feeds. So links is something where detonation is really useful, where you can get a lot of value from detonation, and where you as well don't need to worry so much about the privacy of those things, because again, these are the things that you have just received from the internet. So we see a huge spike in the amount of URL and documents. Basically documents have just dropped out since Microsoft has disabled macros. We are living in a post-macro world at the moment, but we still see a lot of PDFs. We see some other stuff, and again, like links are growing up. If you think about how to make your phishing processing workflows better, if you think about how to detect advanced phishing, VMRay is definitely something you should take into the consideration, not because I'm telling so, but because again, I'm sharing the best practices that we see when we are speaking with the customers. We don't even somehow promote it at the moment. That's what we do see in the real life. Yeah, like the integration with the Microsoft Outlook, it's not the only integration that we have. As you probably know, we also have integration with many other products. The customers can submit to us from their SOAR system, and we have a very broad support, starting from obviously XSOAR, Splunk SOAR, Phantom, C-Amplify, and so on. We do have support for the major EDR products as well. For Carbon Black, for Microsoft Defender, for Endpoint, for Sentinel-1, and so on. We have support for many of the threat intel platforms. Some of the customers have the TIP as their major console. So yeah, we do have many connectors. Well, on the course of the last year, we got several more. So I guess that somewhere close to the end of the webinar, I will show you exactly where to look for this integration. But let's jump to the next use case, the next big thing that we heard from our customers. Yeah, I guess this is not about it. So The next big thing is more and more companies employ EDR these days. Well, obviously AVs were good like several years ago. Some customers still keep their old products like Symantec or McAfee or something. However, more and more customers we talk to understand that AV is not enough, EPP is not enough. They want to have EDRs in place as well. And they basically split into 3 groups. The first one is the group with very sophisticated SOCs and well-defined security structure and the security team structure as well. They really employ EDR, no problem at all, and they are happy with the products, and they know how to tune, how to parse, and we speak with them. They are happy. They don't know how they lived without it like several years ago. The second group is the group who employs some kind of managed detection and response providers. And these guys are happy as well because they can do this. They don't suffer much except for the lack of context from time to time. The third group is the most complicated one. They are smaller companies with a little bit less defined security program, and the problem they face when they employ EDR is that they see many alerts coming from them. Basically, there are several ways to tackle that, but the most typical example, I guess, is that you just want to call for an enrichment and for validation of the alert that coming from EDR and check whether this is a true positive or a false positive. And for this, the traditional workflow for the customers who use us as well usually looks like they first call for VirusTotal and their feeds to check whether this is something already known to their security vendors. The second step, however, is to check with VMRay as well. Like if they query it and if VirusTotal just gives you 0 or gives you just 1 detection, well, that can be a false positive, but that can also be some kind of a new sophisticated thing that you probably want to get some intel on. And that's where customers call us, and that's why all these integrations and that's why all those integrations that were mentioned on the previous slides, the SentinelOne, Carbon Black, XOR, Splunk, and so on, are so useful for those customers. We call this use case like alert triage and enrichment, and we also see a huge spike in the amount of customers who are using VMRay Analyzer in this direction. Now let's, I guess, switch to the malware config extraction part, right? The big thing that happened last year is that we finally implemented, we spent a lot of resources to create this feature next to perfect. And we currently support, I guess, 24 or 25 families with it. The idea of malware config extraction is pretty simple. Many malware goes on the paid basis. Like you don't need to create your own stuff. You just pay or share the income from the ransomware attack or something, and for this you get the fully fledged sample of the malware, which you just modify to specify your C2s and to generate the payload, which will not be detected by any AV, EDR, or whatsoever product. And then you are free to go. You don't need to have all those special skills. You don't need to employ the team of the developers. You know the story, I guess, as you are here, and thank you for that. So you know the story about those malware families, and in the past, the point was that we were great at detonating those samples, at revealing their malicious activities. However, we were able to provide you with just 1 or 2 C2s that were actually used during the detonation. Now the possibility to get the full insight into the config of this malware family actually gives us full understanding on what this sample is about, what C2s are employed there, what files are created, where they are located, and so on and so forth. This makes our intel that we are generating and that we are feeding into your SOAR or TIP even more reliable and even less noise-free. And we already see that customers are really happy with the fidelity of the IOCs that we produce from those malware families. And yeah, like we plan to only increase the number of families supported, as well as yeah, the number of families that we support. We do have like Michael, sorry.
Yeah, can I just jump in? Because again, I want to take everyone's focus off of PowerPoint, which we all love. But I actually want to show some of this because I dug up a sample earlier. This is an Agent Tesla sample. Probably you could find it on places like Malware Bazaar. But we had a customer recently that was so interested to see this, and they were getting the VMRay threat identifier. So you can see there we have a VMRay threat identifier, 5 out of 5. If we're able to extract this configuration, we know exactly what we're looking at. Click through that. This will take you to the dynamic analysis report, and it's underneath the VMRay threat identifiers. Now, again, my background in sort of more security operations, we've got an SMTP server. Now, this one, Agent Tesla, if I'm correct, this is looking to start sending out spam and other such nasty stuff. This is the type of indicator of compromise or something like that you're going to want immediately to plug into your firewall. So again, we talk about VMRay, we talk about integrations with EDRs and things like that, traditional stuff. But as you can see, depending on what these sort of very malicious samples are looking to do, maybe that you're going to end up sort of fueling your mail system, your firewall, or other such things with indicators that we're finding from VMRay. So yeah, I just wanted to jump in there and show that, just because, as I said, we had a customer recently that hadn't actually seen these. They're all in the same spot into the dynamic analysis report underneath the VMRay threat identifiers. As you will see, broken out clearly. Agent Tester is a common one. Cobalt Strike, we have things like the actual beacon that the spawn to process. So you can then plug that into your EDR solution and see, okay, has anything strange been interacting with this executable? So on and so forth. So depending on the family, the sort of configurations, the indicator compromise we get, extremely valuable. Let me jump back into PowerPoint to let you finish off with that. Here you go. 3, 2, 1. There you go. Back to you, Andre.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Michael. So yeah, summarizing this. With the malware config extraction, you get better intel. With the malware config extraction, you get more intel than you will get just with the dynamic analysis. The part with dynamic analysis is very important because we extract this intel not just from the sample itself, but also from the memory dumps, which is much more important, which are produced while we detonate the sample, because that gives us more possibilities to detect the moment where the malware has already decrypted the config and get this full intel and present it to you. So with the with the VMRay Analyzer, you get it in a much more reliable fashion than what you can find, I guess, more or less anywhere on the market. Can we go further?
You know what, we can.
Oh, fantastic. I guess this is
fantastic. Everyone's going to be heartbroken, Andre.
Yeah, just wait a sec. I mean, I think that I want to share now. Now it's my turn to share my screen.
Okay, let me stop sharing. There you go. Help yourself.
just wait a sec. And yeah. Yes, the last thing that happened. Do you see my screen now?
Yeah.
The last thing that happened within the 4.7 is we have this security automation dashboard live. In the past, many customers who wanted to get the automation experience from the VMRay Analyzer well, asked a lot of questions like, how do we do this? I mean, the API part is clear, but where do we get the connectors? What do we need to do to enable AR Mailbox, and so on and so forth? So what we have implemented in the 4.7 is the security automation dashboard, which gives you the full step-by-step instruction on how to enable or disable some features, how to enable or disable the integration with the IR Mailbox, how to enable or disable integration with the EDR, like Sentinel-1, Defender for Endpoint, Carbon Black Cloud, or some other products, what to do if you want to integrate with SOAR, and so on and so forth. If you want to integrate with Sentinel-1, what you need to do, you just click here to create an API key. Then you just click on the link for the Sentinel-1, go to the connector page, download the connector, install it, and here you go. So no need to run through the Google, no need to ask Google about this anymore. Yeah, and well, after you integrate it, you will be able to see the full stats about the integration. Like in my case, I have integrated it with the IR Mailbox. That's the feature my fake company is using. And as you see, I have started already submitting a lot. Even I have integrated just a couple of hours ago. I also do have integration with Sentinel-1. So all my samples that Sentinel-1 detects sent and they are considered a threat automatically sent to the VMRay Analyzer. And they are validated, and extra intel, extra IOCs are provided, and you can find these things in the Sentinel-1 console. Yeah, like here, you get the list of VTIs, you get the full list of IOCs, and this can be done not with just Sentinel-1, but with many other products as well. I do have a case with Simplify here, but probably don't need to run through all of the integrations at the moment. Just summarizing this all again, in 4.7, since 4.7, you have this automation dashboard, and it allows you to make an integration with the product you want in just few clicks, and basically enjoy the full dynamic analysis of the files and the URLs that you want to. Michael, do you want to add anything?
Thank you everyone for joining. Give us a few days to deep fake the video so we look much better. And then we'll release it on the internet, and of course all of your colleagues can have a watch. No doubt you want to share it with family and friends. Everyone have a sit down and watch this. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining. And of course, if you do have any questions, anything like that, feel free to drop an email in, get in touch with us any way you can. We're always happy to discuss our technology. Thank you everyone for joining. Goodbye.
Thank you very much.